everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to the Dice Tower, and we're going to take a look at 8 quick game reviews. A couple things before we start. First of all, we're working on our audio. We know we had some audio problems in the past. We're hoping to clean them up as time goes by, so hopefully it gets better. And secondly, if you just want to see one of these reviews at a time, don't forget to check out Dice Tower Encore. That's our channel where we just put up one video at a time. We split these up. But if you want to watch all 8, here's your chance. Let's get started. Witch Draft, which I think is a pun on witchcraft. It has a funky little furry thing here. It's a kind of a cute cover, and that is covering a not-so-great game. Let me show you. In this game, each player gets a apprentice, so you start with a card like this. You're also going to get 2 scoring cards, and these scoring cards that you get are going to show you how you're going to score throughout the game. The game takes place over 2 rounds. In each round, you are going to draft from 4 cards that you'll randomly take in your hand. You're going to keep one and then pass the remaining 3 to the next player. Then you'll keep one, and then the last one's discarded. You'll do that again, but then in the second round, the 4th card you will keep. As you keep these cards, you have to immediately play them, and you can rotate them to connect to your apprentice or to a card that you already have out there. And you're just trying to score based on your scoring cards that you played at the beginning of the game. When all 7 are finished, you will do your final scoring. So the first scoring card is going to give you, you'll notice here, points for different creatures that you have. This one gives 2 points for one of these creatures. This one gives 3 for that. It will give you points for combos. So this says for every purple and blue card, I get 3 points. And then I get 1 point for every red or green card. So 1, 2, 3, that would give me. And then it gives me 3 points for connecting these combos of these little crystals that you have here. Although this card here only gives you 1 point for that. The other scoring cards will give you points for every connection that you've made, and then points for every specific connection that you've made. Although some cards give you complete connections, whether, just by playing the card itself. After that, you will simply just add up all the points, and whoever has the most is the winner. Witch Draft is a drafting game, which I really enjoy drafting games, but I really hate this one for a couple reasons. One, it's boring. You are drafting 7 cards, and you might be like, well, hey, Tom, that's it's kind of a quick little game, but a quick little game still needs to be quick little fun, and this one is not. You draft, you look at your scoring cards, you say, this is what I need to take. Now, you might argue and say, but there's a blue in this. You take the one that's worth the most points. And if not, you take one of the 2 that is. There's no reason, there's no real choices to be made. Also, the scoring points cards seem to be imbalanced. Some of them are much easier to score higher points for. I mean, like if they're like, well, we give you more points if you put those pink gems together. Yeah, but that's harder to do than to just get blue cards or whatever. Or you might not even get any blue cards, which is your main way of scoring. It's just nonsensical. This is not worth your time at all. I give this one a 3 out of 10. I do not like Witch Draft. Some maybe good art, but that's pretty much all I can say that's good about it. Lunar Laser Frogs is a silly name for a game, and I get it. This company here, which they loosey-goosey, keeps making crazy named games. Tofu God, they have all kinds of weird little games. And I keep trying their games, and so far, I don't really like their games that much. But this one here, a speed dice rolling game, is this one different? Here, take a look. First of all, I want to show you these scoring cards. This is the majority of the components in the game. And there are 1 cards that change to a 5. There are 10s that change to a 20. So this is how you keep track of who has the points. Each player will pick a different symbol, like a different kind of picture on them. And then you're going to get 5 cards of that. So you have 3 colors, blue, yellow, and pink. These are important because of the colors shown on the sides of dice that are in the game. A gray card, and then a card with no color. On a player's turn, they're going to be rolling these 6 dice. They can roll 1 die. They have to roll them 3 times. So you could roll 1 dice, and then 3 dice, and then 2 dice. It doesn't matter. I guess you could roll 1, then 4, then 1. Whatever you're doing, you're slowly rolling these. And as you're rolling them, everybody else is throwing their cards into the box here. So each player can throw cards into the box. You're going to throw exactly 2 cards into that box. After everyone's thrown their cards into the box, The player who rolled the dice is going to pick one player whose points they're going to copy. You're then going to reveal the cards one at a time and compare them to the dice. So this is a pink card, so whoever played this card is going to get 1 point for each pink frog that is out there. And if someone else played a pink card, too bad, it is first come, first served. The gray card here is going to get points for every card that was played before it. So you can get a lot of points, but only, again, the first gray card. And then the card that has no color on it will score 2 points for each blank die. So in this case, this one's worth 2. So if you had played the blue card here, you get 2 points, the yellow card 2 points, the pink card 3 points, and the blank card 2 points. And then the gray card, depending on when you play it, in the pile. I still don't like this game. I want to like their game so much. I like the art on it. I like the name of it, even though Lunar Laser Frogs almost has nothing to do with the game at all. I think there's frogs on the dice. Okay, but anyhow, it's so weird. You roll 6 dice and it says roll them in groups. So most time people roll 2, 2, and 2. Okay, I'm going to change it up. Roll 5 and 1. Everyone else is looking at those cards and playing. Then the one person says, I think Bob's got the most points, or Ruby has the most points. And then you get points. And that's the game. It's just not interesting at all. Sorry. I want to like it more, but there's just not a game here. There's no real hook. There's lots of games roll dice and throw cards. This one, other than the funny name and the funny art, doesn't seem to be there. So 5 out of 10 for me. Lunar Laser Frogs. I do like the name. Line It looks like a game that you would get at a mass market store from Gigamic. And you know what? Maybe it will be at a mass market store. Look at this. I like the box for Line It. I don't know why. It's kind of a weird one to put on your shelf. But the cards of this are a little generic. They're just colored cards, different suits. And you're trying to play a little bit of Racco with these cards. Let me show you. Each turn of the game, you will turn over cards that are equal to the number of players plus 2. And then starting with the start player, which is going to change each round, one person is going to take a card, then the next person will take a card, then the next person will take a card. The 2 cards that are not taken are placed in a pile above the token that matches that one. So as the game goes by, these piles are going to grow in number. Meanwhile, when someone takes a card, they'll place it in front of them. After that point, each card that they play has to be either descending or ascending once you start. So for example, I play 96. Now that I played a 61, this card is going to be descending. I could play this 38. I could then play a 37 after that, but I could not play a 73. And in fact, if I have a 73 and I have to play it, then I'm going to be forced to score my line and start a new line with this number. You can put a card in your hand. You can have up to 2 cards in your hand, and you can play one of those cards on your turn. Also, when you play your 3rd card of a color, so let's say I do play 37, this is my 3rd red card, you get all the cards that are above that token, and you're going to be able to score them. Now, at some point, you're going to decide to score your line, because you're forced to, or you just want to. When you score your line, 3 cards are going to be discarded, and the rest of them then become points for you, added to your point pile. If you get a bonus card, you can add a bonus card to your line. Let's say 3 is my first card, and then I put a plus 5 here. That means I need to have at least 5 more cards that are going to ascend after this. So 4 seems like a good start. I don't think I'm going to make it now. When you're forced to score, or you decide to score, if you do have 5 cards after this, or 4 cards, or whatever the number is, you will take a token and keep it for scoring at the end of the game. If you don't, you will get a minus token and score it at the end of the game. You will continue to do this until you go through the entire pile, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Line It is a very simple game. We're talking maybe Uno simple, a little bit more than that. And there's a few things about it that I think are a little off. And for example, those bonus cards, they're great at the beginning of the game. Near the end of the game, they show up. No one drafts one because you can't finish them near the end. But that's it. Other than that, this game is just joyful to me. This is the kind of game that's easy for anybody to play. This is the kind of game I would take and play with people at a nursing home, I think, because just put out cards, draft them. You're trying to put them in a line. You might, when you can't put one in a line, then what card do you pick? You're like, oh, my lowest card is 47. You're going downwards. And oh, there's no 46 out there. There's a 23. I don't want to take a 23. So you know what I'm going to do? There's a 98 out there. I'm going to take that into my hand and just keep it so that when I bust eventually, I have a really high card to start with. Or sometimes I'm like, I'm about to bust, but you know what? I'm going to jump down 30 numbers or jump up 30 numbers to take a card. It's the third card of a color so that I can get that pile out there. Now, making this game sound like it has tons more strategy than it does. It's not that complex, but it's simple, enjoyable fun. I thought it works really well with 2 players back and forth. It's the kind of game you can play with your friend or your partner at night and just kind of just chill and have a good time. So this one gets a 7.5 for me. It's really, really simple and light, but I enjoyed it all the way. Foxy. What does the fox say? Well, the fox in this one says memorize. In this game, you're going to go through 20 cards of the Foxy deck. So you'll shuffle, make a 20-card deck, and then you're going to turn over the first card. I'm going to then write down, everyone has a board like this, you're going to write down how many times you've seen these animals in total. So far I've seen 1 dolphin, 1 cat, and 1 octopus, so I've seen 3 animals. It's pretty obvious. The next card, how many dolphins and octopi have I seen so far? Well, that's 4, because there's 2 on this card, 2 on the last. Now there's 1 chicken. Now there's been 1 bear. Now there's been 1 pig. Now there's been 3 and 2, that's 5. Now there's been, is this my first zebra? It's my 3rd cat. I think it's 4. Was that my 3rd? I think so. Is that my 4th? I don't remember, so I'll just write 3. Oh. I don't remember anything at this point. How many rabbits have there been? 4 and 2 bears, so that's 6. And so on. This is how you're going to play the game. As you go farther, obviously, it's going to get harder. If at any point you're like really, really sure on one of them, you can circle it, and that one will score you double points at the end of the game if you're correct. At the end of the game, you're going to turn over this card to show you. So there's 1 dolphin, there's 1 cat, and 1 octopus, so that's 3. And then everyone will compare it with their board. 3, good, I got 3. If you go over the number, you get no points. If you come under the number, then you will get the points that you wrote. So, for example, I now had another one of these. So there's 4. That one's correct. Now there's 1 chicken. I got that correct. There's now 1 bear. I got that correct. There's now 1 pig. I've gotten that correct. This adds a cat and a dolphin. So that's 5. That's what I said. Nice. This adds a zebra and a cat. So that is 4. I got that one correct. This adds an octopus, which is 3. And I got that correct. This adds a dolphin, which is 4. And I wrote 3. So I get 3 points. And then this is a bear and a rabbit. And I wrote 6. And it's only 3. So I'm not doing very good in that regard. And then this one's a dolphin. And I wrote 4. But there's actually 5 dolphins. And even so I circled this, I don't get anything. I would have got double had I been correct. Anyway, at the end of the game, whoever has the most points is the winner. A lot of you probably can tell from me going over that whether you'll like the game or not. And you know what? I'm not normally a big fan of memory games, but this one amused me. And I think the reason for that is because I can just say, well, I can't remember how many there are. So I'm going to guess 4, because I think there's been maybe 6 or 5. I don't know. So I'll just say 4. I'll be safe. I'll at least get 4 points. And I'll tell you what. That works. It just does. It's kind of a weird game because the first 5 cards everyone's going to get right because you'll remember that. But after that, it does a bit snowball. And even people who are definitely sure start getting forgetful near the end. Each of the different types of terrain that's in the background, whether it shows the farm or underwater, has 2 animals. But the cat can show up anywhere, as cats can do. There's also a fox card in there. And when the fox card shows up, if he shows up at all, you say how many different animals you've seen before him. That's it. There are some games that are better than others because when there's more 2 animal cards that show up rather than 1 animals, it's trickier, and that's just going to be random shuffling of the deck. But I still really find this one to be an amusing little game, especially to play with families or kids. So in that regards, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Balloon Pop. Balloon Pop is a game in which, well, you know what? This is an app. This is an app from your iPad or your Android or your phone that they have made into a board game. You'll understand when I show you. In this game, players are going to have a handful of cards that are 1 through 10. And you're going to be playing these over the course of several rounds. In each round, you're going to pull these cubes here, which are balloons, because, of course, balloons are cubical. And you'll notice some have these symbols on them. But you're going to pull out sets of 4 randomly per number of players. So let's say we're playing a 3-player game. We'd pull out 4 sets of balloons like this. Hey, it's a wild balloon. Then each player in turn order is going to play a card, or you can play where everyone turns them and reveals them. Whoever plays the highest card is going to pick a set first. Whoever plays the second highest card will take one of the leftover sets, and whoever plays the lowest card will take one. If there's a tie, first in player turn order gets to pick first. Once you take the balloons, you're going to put them on your player board. How the balloons are placed on your board depends on the card that you play. So if you play a 10 or a 9, it's going to be vertically. And you can place them, either direction vertically. So I can place them like this. But they're balloons, so they will rise to the top like that. If you play an 8 or 7, they are horizontal. Now, horizontally means when you place them like this, look at this. This one will rise and stop there. The rest will keep rising. And that's always how that's going to work. A 6 or 5, you choose horizontal or vertically. A 4 or 3, you can choose horizontally or vertically, or you can get rid of one of the ones at the end. So if I have these 4, for example, I might say I'm going to get rid of this blue one here and just move those 3 up like that. And the 2 and 1 are the same thing, except you can get rid of one in between. Now, you are trying to score your player board. You will do that if you ever make a group of 4 or more. So let's say these 2 come up like this. That would be a group of 5 yellows. So when I have 5 yellows, I'm going to take that many minus 2 points. See, 4 more minus 2 points. And so I would get 3 points, which would be marked on the scoring board. All the other balloons would go up. Now, when it comes to these symbols next to each other, 2 or more of those go together. So that's already would pop. And sometimes when you pop some stuff, other stuff would pop. So that's only minus 1. So these would all go away. And I would get, 2 points. And that's the game. You're just going to keep doing this. You're going to put out some more balloons and take it. After 8 rounds, you only play 8 of the cards from your hand. You will score all the points that you got over the course of the game. Plus, each completely empty row and or column will score you 1 or 3 points respectively. Whoever has the most points is the winner. So this is kind of a weird one. Gorgeous production. I mean, they did a great job on how this looks. I mean, you can even look inside the box, inside the bottom cover. I'm not going to take everything out. It shows you all the components. That's fantastic. And the cubes are cool. Although, again, it doesn't make sense. They're balloons, but they're cubes. And they try to be like, look, the cover, they're cubes. Whatever. The thing about this is, it's okay. You play a card, you're trying to outplay other people, trying to get the ones you want, to make the balloons fly up and make groups so you get points, although you can get a lot of points by having empty rows and columns at the end of the game. And in fact, when I played, that has almost always determined the victor, who can get the most empty spaces. So fine. But you know what? Why do I want to play this? There is literally probably 1,000 app games that do this exact same thing. A board game just slows it down, adds cards, and if it did something different, that'd be interesting. This one doesn't seem to do anything different, and it's missing all the cool animations and stuff. Now, I know you might argue and say, hey, get off the app and just play a board game, but it's fine. It's interesting for a brief while, but I would not want to get this one. It's not terrible. I didn't hate playing it, but I wouldn't really recommend getting it. 6 out of 10 for me. Sea Dragons, which is the English title of this game here, is about building Nessie and her friends out in the ocean. It's a polyomino sort of game, except your polyomino is made up of dragon parts. Let me show you. The board is put together randomly, and then you're also going to randomly put on these pirate ships on top of these little flags scattered around the board. What players are trying to do is get victory points, and you're going to get victory points by finishing missions or by having majority of dragons in each of these 4 sections. Players are going to start with some cards, and they're going to, on your turn, play a card, and it will show you always put out 1 head of a dragon, which doesn't really matter in this game, the difference between the head and the body sections. It's just so that you know how many different dragons you have on the board. So I'll put out the dragon in that shape, and my dragon must be next to an island. So let's say I want to make the T like this, and you can rotate and mirror the images if you want to, or it needs to be next to someone else's dragon. I can never start another dragon next to one of my own, but I can start one next to somebody else's. So the yellow dragon might go here and build one like this. When you put a dragon out, if you cover up gold, you'll get a gold piece. If you cover up a ship, you'll take that ship. If you cover up a whirlpool, or these currents that are going in between the boards, because your dragon can cross sections, you have to pay 2 gold to do that. And if you can't do that, then you can't go no spots. At the top of the board are wanted cards, and at the end of your turn, if you have the ships, if you've collected the ship tokens for one of these cards, you can turn it in. You'll get that many victory points. At the end of the game, whoever has collected the most cards will get an extra 5 victory points. Whenever you cover a reef space, you will get reef cards, and these cards can do things like these. Will give you 2 ships of your choice. Maybe it's worth 4 coins. It counts as an extra dragon for scoring majorities at the end of a round. And at the end of your turn, you will take a small, medium, or large dragon. They're different sizes. You'll try to pick one based on if you can fit it on the board somewhere. At the end of the game, you'll see who has the most dragons in each area. And whoever has the most is going to get 3 victory points for each whirlpool that's not covered up. And then the second most will get half of that. And again, if you're in both, you'll get both those points. You will do that and add that to all the rest of the points you've gotten over the course of the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. I gotta say, I was pleased at how easy and fun this game is to play, and how it's a little different than these games normally are. You're picking, at the end of your turn, the shape of the dragon that you want to play in the future. Do you want a big one? Do you want a small one? Well, that's kind of up to you. The big ones can cover more ground. The small ones cover less, but you don't want to pay gold usually to cover up those whirlpools, especially since if you are controlling the area, then you want to have whirlpools open. If you're not, then sure, cover up a bunch of whirlpools, but that also costs you money, and money has points. So, you want to fit there, but you want to cover up those ships, and you want to get the right ships, or you want to get those amazing coral cards. There's only a few coral spaces on the board, but those are amazing. But you want to get those cards at the top because that's a lot of points. But the first time you play, almost guaranteed everyone's focusing on those turn into ships for those missions at the top. And then suddenly you're like, wait, you get a lot of points for controlling these areas. And a dragon that's sprawled across 2 regions probably scored you nothing. He probably didn't get you a pirate ship. He cost money to put out there. Comes in real handy at the end. So it's really interesting. It also looks really cool. It is an abstract game. Let's not pretend otherwise with the little dragons. But it looks neat on the board, has a neat feel. The fact that you can't place next to your own harkens back to the day of games like Blocus that do the same thing. I just found this one to be a fun, filler is a strong word because it's not short enough for that. It says 40 minutes. 40 minutes is about right. But it's lightweight and breezy in some ways, but in other ways offers some really good choices. So that all combines. I mean, one of the designers is Luciani, who does a lot of more heavy, bigger games. But this one here, I think, is a really neat one to check out. So that's Sea Dragons. This one I'd give an 8 out of 10 to. Unlock the Adventures. I played all of them, I think. So this is the newest one, or Game Adventures. This one is based on 3 games. We had Ticket to Ride, Pandemic, and Mysterium. Don't really like Mysterium that much on a personal level. Pandemic I enjoy. Ticket to Ride I love. So this is an escape room style game. You need an app to play it. It's in the Unlock series. It's 3 different versions. When you're done, you can give it to somebody else to play. Let me show you a little non-spoilery stuff. Okay, so let's take a look. The game comes with instructions. It comes with a step-by-step solution, although you're going to need the app. You need an app for this game. It's a free app that you can download. And the app will have hints and things, but this walks you through it in case you missed something. This is a quarantine map that's only used in Pandemic. Then each of these comes with a complete deck of cards that you will use. These cards will come into play over the course of the game. You'll start by reading the first card. Most of the time, and this is a tutorial one, so don't worry, this doesn't spoil anything. Most of the time, these cards will show you numbers of other cards on them. So this, for example, shows card 21. So you just sort through the deck. You find card 21. You turn it over. This is a machine. You punch this into the app, and it will do something. Sometimes cards are puzzle pieces, like a blue and a red can be put together. So I'll say, does the key work with the TV? 11 plus 42 is 53. And then you look and see, is there a 53? No, there's not. So that combination doesn't work. Sometimes you'll get a card that will give you an error, and then you have to add a minute to your time But that's it. You're going to keep going through until you finish, and then it will give you a ranking based on how long you took and how many clues you needed, things like that. So let's talk about the rankings of these for how difficult they were. Ticket to Ride, they say, is the easiest, although I personally found Mysterium easier. But and then Mysterium the second, and Pandemic's the hardest. My favorite by far was the game I liked the least, Mysterium. Worked really well in here. All three of the games in this escape room thing use their mechanisms from the base game somehow, some way. I don't want to spoil how they do it. I mean, obviously you saw Pandemic comes with a map. And they do so in really interesting ways. And I think that's cool. I like how they do that. I think the Pandemic one is possibly the hardest unlock I have ever played. And there are 2 points in it that I found to be almost, I was like, really? You expected me to figure that out on my own? It was sort of neat, but also like, come on. And I'm trying to be oblique here a bit, but if you have problems in Unlock, because a lot of Unlock games have like hidden numbers somewhere, this takes that to a degree I've never seen it before. So if you don't like that, you might not like Pandemic. But Mysterium had a really fun moment in the middle of it that was enjoyable. And Ticket to Ride had some interesting ideas. And I thought all three of the games stayed true to the base game. So while I found that weird moments in Pandemic, I loved every bit of Mysterium because Mysterium comes down to a whodunit, essentially. Ticket to Ride was pretty solid. And I'll give this whole thing an 8.5. My favorite in the batch is Mysterium. Mysterium might be one of my favorite I've ever played in the Unlock series. It would be my top 10, I think, in that series ever. But they're all going to be enjoyable. And if you like the base games, you'll enjoy them. If you've never played the games, you don't have to worry about it. It still will work out okay. My Singing Monsters. You know, this is a board game. I am kind of excited when a game that's based on a video game, or in this case, it's like an app for your phone and stuff, I know about. I played My Singing Monsters for a while. I got kind of bored with it. It's one of those endless games. You know, you play for a while. You can spend money if you want to, or you just kind of collect things. And this one I liked because it's about music. It's about little monsters on the islands, and they would make one sound, oh, oh, whoop, 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 and then they would combine and make some music of sorts. Okay, great. They're making a board game about that. I'm in. There's a lot of rules in the game, and that's because the game has multiple levels. Each level comes with a separate board. So the full game, you would add all the levels. But the game itself is about moving your pieces, which are really cute 3D pieces here of the different monsters. And the first person to get up here will trigger the end of the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. You're going to be doing that by playing cards. And there are all sorts of monsters in this game. In fact, this game has tons and tons of decks. And the decks are all small. So like this is a deck here that's rock, water, and ice. And you'll have to shuffle this and put it next to the board, next to all the other decks. And that's only because it's the T-Rocks characters, and one of them is a rare T-Rocks, which you can turn in to get you a couple coins if you want to, rather than playing it on the board. And so on a player's turn, usually they're going to play a monster from their hand. And at the beginning of the game, you're simply going to have monsters that are a single type of resource. So you can see that I'm just going through all these different piles here. There are double, there are triple, there are quadruple resource cards. They're probably the best, but there are the single resource cards. So you'll play one of these in a spot, and it's going to give you the benefit of that spot. A lot of the benefits are getting the different resources that match the creatures that you pay. So you're going to place these out. And if you place two here, so I have ice and the sand, then I'll look through the double resource pile and I'll take the ice sand one. So I would look through here, and here's ice sand. So I take one out of that pile, and I have now a Pango to play in the future. The reason you're collecting these tiles is because you're going to be finishing songs, and you'll have songs, and at the beginning of each round, you'll be able to pick where these start. But as I collect resources of that type, I am filling in these spots here, which will finish the card if I fill in the black ones, but I want to fill in more of them to get more points, which will help me win the game. And that's basically it. Even though there's all kinds of different ways to get these resources, there's extra cards that will do things, there is There's technology cards that you can get that will give you special abilities. It all comes to just getting these token, finishing these cards. And that's kind of how the game plays. My biggest problem with My Singing Monsters is not the quality. The quality is fantastic. You saw that stuff. It looks fantastic. It's great. This is the deluxe edition, so that's probably something to do with it. But who is this game for? I don't know. It's not for casual gamers who like My Singing Monsters. Are you insane that you have to shuffle like 30 mini decks to set this game up? That's such a pain in the neck. That the game has this really, in my opinion, terrible rules section where they're like, level 1, do this. I'm like, okay, you can do that. You can play a game on level 1, but then the game is so basic and so doofy, it's not really fun. You just collect things and put them on your notes and you're done. So you want to play with more, but then they teach them to you separately. Just make it a whole game. Make one easy game and one heavy game if you must, but to make 5 levels. So if you try to learn all 5 levels at once, which I did, that's confusing. But especially for an average gamer, and I think a lot of average gamers back this and play it because they like My Singing Monsters, which is just put out monsters and collect resources. So it's kind of complicated. But even then, so I'm a gamer. I like lots of rules. There's all these different rules for My Singing Monsters, and it felt super basic. I basically put out a monster, collect some resources. Can I put them on my thing? Yes. Okay, I get the action of the spot I went to. Most of the actions are boring. The upgrades are not worth it, almost ever. They don't pan out. There's a section where like you get one-time abilities, which are boring. It's just so not, it's like this mini, small, boring little game that's been expanded and have all kinds of extra stuff added to it that makes it confusing. Who's it for? I just don't get it. Maybe you get it for the pieces. Maybe some people enjoy it, but I found this one to be a big splashing miss for me. And that's with someone who enjoys the theme. So My Singing Monsters, there's some interesting ideas in there, so I'll give it a 5, but that's the highest I can go with this one. Not very enjoyable. And that, folks, is 8 games. Some good, some not so good, but all very, very different. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel, and that's been 8 short game reviews on a Dice Tower. We'll see you next time.